331. Ooh, we're hitting 333 soon.
Soon, we're going to have one of those. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Atlantic Bushcraft Adventures. Tonight, we are on episode 331, as you might have heard us talking about there a little bit, and we're going to be talking about learning through volunteering. This is why you should lead us in, Ben. Actually, Ben, you just take over, man. I'm going to have a drink. It's water, folks, but it's just been one of those days.
Yeah, okay, fine. But you usually do such a great job. Yeah, we're going to talk about learning through volunteering and how, like, if a lot of this stuff is something you're interested in, there is means where you can not only use your time for the good of others, but actually help increase your education. So I think it's a win-win situation. I think a lot of people should do it more. Me and Robert are practitioners of this. Me less so lately, but I've definitely been a part of that world. And Robert still more so than me does participate in the world of volunteering more. Um, and so the opportunity to learn, and this is where things, you talk to people saying, "Oh, I don't know how I'd even get started," or "I'm really interested in this, but I'm nervous." There's few easier ways to do this than to volunteer for organizations that do this type of stuff. Now, the ones that immediately come in mind, and we've talked a lot about, is search and rescue. In the fire department, you can get a ton of training through these guys for basically free. In some ways, you may even I'm not saying get paid to, but uh, you'll get reimbursed for some of your stuff. With search and rescue, I used to get reimbursed for some mileage. Sorry, I had some things going on my computer.
Oh, okay, that
Uh,
was you, not me. I'm looking around going, I don't know what that noise is. I'm trying to figure it out.
Something popped up. I was just trying to get it to go away. So yeah, like it can take some of that burden off you. It also sets aside a schedule, and since it's something you're volunteering for, you really are going to help your community, or help an organization, or like maybe a nonprofit. But this stuff can really help, and I mean, so those are the two quick ones. If you're into helping youth, actually a lot of avenues for this, and they have structured programming. And the ones that come to me primarily are like your Girl Guides, your Scouts, these organizations that focused on outdoor activities for kids and getting them like educated, and it gets them out into camps. They do day camps and week camps and stuff through the year, and there's hiking and camping, and then different skills. You get badges for it, so the kids really like it. It keeps them occupied, and it's good for the adults too, honestly.
Well, yeah, the thing I like about scouts and stuff like that is it's one of those things you don't necessarily have to be a woods guru going in. It is a great place to pass on some of the skills that you already know, but it's also a real safe place to learn new ones from other volunteers and stuff like that. Because let's face it, the scouts is kind of I don't like the term a revolving door, but it is that kind of turnarounding where, people will stay until they basically something happens generally, you know what I mean? Either they're just getting too old or something physically changes or whatever, and they accumulate all this knowledge, and it's great to kind of absorb that knowledge before they, go on their way, and then now you have it, you can pass it on to other people. It's a it's a real good way. Sorry, I was kind of reading the comments here at the same time. So Danny's joined us there, and Eric's joined us. What's the topic tonight? Tonight we are talking about learning through volunteering. So maybe we have talked about in the past some of the big players in the game, like the fire department and search and rescue, as Ben just said here. But we're talking about some of those other ones that maybe you don't want to go to that level of volunteering because there's a fairly physical and time commitment available to those throughout the year. We're talking about some other options that are out there that may work better for some people, but still offer a wealth of not technology, wealth of information and learning advancements.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was never part of the Scouts. Believe it or not, those who know me would be like, you weren't? But no, it wasn't an offer for me. Where I grew up, Scouts was just not there. There was Girl Guides. The girls could go to that. And I always was a little sour about the fact that they didn't offer that. But there was also some church groups that did similar type stuff. And you could get involved with those. So if you're, involved in a church, or you you don't even have to be part of that church. Honestly, a lot of them will take volunteers that are outside of. It may limit your ability to expand within that organization without maybe converting to it at some point. But for basic volunteering, a lot of them will take help from other denominations or even other religions, depending on uh, the focus. But it's definitely a spot that you can sort of get that experience. That was another option. Somebody mentioned the other day. I was talking. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, along the same lines as all the church activities, almost any youth group organization, be it religious or other, they're
Yeah.
generally looking for volunteers. And depending on what that youth group does, and I'm thinking things like just the local youth groups. Literally, we have like a youth hangout over in one of our towns that's just a center for the youth in the area to have something to do so they're not out running the streets. You know what I mean? And they're always trying to look for volunteers to organize some activities and things like that, because otherwise it's just kind of a clubhouse where kids go to hang out without any real structured plan. And that's where, folks volunteering can really add some interesting things into that. But yeah, any kind of a youth group.
Yeah, I mean, I used to be a counselor for I know a youth worker. I don't know what you call us. I used to work for a youth group. It was a summer employment for me a couple of times, and it was really good. It really helped me out, but it also helped out the local kids, and I really appreciate. They had a camp in the woods. We used to go back once or twice a year. We planned different events, snowshoeing, skiing, things like that. These are great. Within the school system or just outside of, I'm not so familiar with the 4-H clubs. Is
Yeah,
another
4-H. Sorry, I was writing something to Danny here.
yeah
4-H, we have actually been asked in the past to go do some stuff with 4-H. It never came to fruition. But
yeah
yeah, they're always looking for stuff like that. The thing that we were going to be bringing them into was going to be literally just nature trailing and stuff like that is what they were looking for to basically get them out there. Some basic shelters. If anybody doesn't know what 4-H is, for whatever reason, it's big into farming and things like that. Agriculture, I should say, not so much farming. I guess classically here in my area, it's a lot of farming, but it's agriculture in general. But that's an outdoors activity that goes further than just farming, I should say. So they wanted to learn some basic survival skills, shelter building, fire building, and we're not talking, rubbing two sticks together to make a fire. Like, this is how you build a fire bundle that you can light with a lighter that's actually going to catch on fire.
yeah.
That's the kind of stuff they want to know, and that's good stuff for us to know and practice.
Oh yeah, for sure. A good buddy of mine. I'm not going to name his name because I don't know if he care, but he joined the Nova Scotia Kayak and Canoe. I'm not sure. I'm sure I got that wrong, but there is an association, and that's what they do. Is they go around and they clear trails and get the mapping for some of these different outdoor paddling routes. A lot of trail associations are often looking for volunteers to do some tree trimming, clearing, just basic upkeep, and just get you out there, get you in the woods, get you doing something physical. Oftentimes, you're going to cook a meal up there. And so when you get there with places like that where people are doing it, it's interesting the people you meet. And, I always like meeting the older people
I was
because
just
you get,
about to say, I have met some of the saltiest guys when we used to do crown laying lines. So we used to do property lines, blazing trails, and stuff like that. And you'd get these like old salty guys that would come in. They'd be gruff, but man, they were good at what they did, and they knew everything about the woods.
yeah. So you get out there with the older gentlemen and the older ladies. Like, don't get me wrong, they know stuff too. It is amazing what they've picked up over the years. And you watch their kit, and they show up. They got like the smallest backpack, and they pull out like ridiculous meals out of them, and they have neat tricks to getting their fires going and stuff. Like, those are the opportunities. And the reality is, these older people that were doing this, a lot of their skills are going to disappear if nobody picks them up.
You
And the reality is sometimes that what you'll find is that their kids aren't into it, their grandchildren aren't into it, and they still carry on what they've been doing all their lives. And it's the gardening, it's the outdoor stuff, and the skills they know. They're more than happy to pass on. And if you're willing to take the time, the stories alone are worth it. So when you get out there, like, just don't look for people your age or just like you. Look for the other people. Look for the older people. Look for the young people that you can be a guide to yourself. But man, the stuff I've learned from people out there, like just getting to talk with them, it is worth it every time. And there's sometimes you're just happy to have someone to talk to, and the amount of stuff you can share, they're happy to learn from you too. So it is two ways. Um, but yeah, so these organizations that do the trails, do the canoe routes, do things like that. They're generally nonprofit or completely free. Maybe they get a few grants towards putting down some fill or something. I don't know how they work. Figure it out. But
Funny enough, you mentioned making a few bucks at doing some of this stuff, and something that just popped in the back of my head while we were talking about old gruff people or elderly gruff people, whatever the political correct term is. You know, an activity that is very seasonal, a ton of fun, and you get the best woods people doing. And I don't know if people do this in other parts of the world. And I'm curious. I'm curious to know if you've done this, Ben. Do you know what I mean by brush picking?
brush picking,
Brush picking.
maybe.
Okay,
Describe it.
so I'll describe it a little bit and see if there's something to this. So around Christmas time, you know how you can get like real Christmas tree wreaths and stuff built out of fir trees and things like that. So the companies that make these, usually leading up to Christmas, will hire people to go out and pick brush. Or basically, it's you're pruning these fir trees, and you take different cuts of it. You can have either Class A or Class B. Some comes in bundles, some comes on sticks. It depends on what you're going to do with it, and the quality of it is how much you get paid for it. But in any case, how you make money, that's something else. It's actually an interesting little side hustle because I don't know, it's a ton of fun. You learn a ton of stuff from it. Tree identification for one, because if you get the wrong stuff and they laugh at you, you'll learn real quick what not to pick.
Yeah.
But you also get to learn like where trees grow. Where you're going to find certain things. Like I'm thinking, I know if I start smelling the smell of cat pee, I'm coming into like a yellow spruce bog, which means there's no point in me being there. There's going to be very few fir trees. It's just weird little things like that you'll pick up. But getting to my further point, that's how I learned how to do a bunch of real super budget efficient things in the woods. Like a thermos can be a mason jar wrapped with a blanket around it and a newspaper, and that will stay hot all day. And we've talked about this in the past. Or like you said, little tricks to start fires or making a tea. I think you used to call them boil ups in the woods, where you're just making a meal and things like that. Like they have the knackiest tricks I have ever seen in my life. I learned more from traveling with a group of brush pickers for one season than I did in some of the survival classes I had taken.
Oh yeah. Listen, they're out there doing the people that do that. They've been doing it year in, year out. They realize where they struggled, and they go home and try to think of how can I do this better next time. You know, I don't want to carry a big kit. I don't want to carry this. I don't want to carry that. So they start looking into it, and you'll never live long enough to make all the mistakes, and you'll never live long enough to try everything. So if you can tune into other people who've done it, you can oftentimes find the people who figured out the best solution, and that's a very real thing, right?
Absolutely. We say that ourselves as I hate to say influencers to any degree because that sounds like that's way out of our wheelhouse. But when we teach other people our skills, something that I've noticed both Ben and I say is, hey, I'm not a master of this subject. I can just tell you a lot of what doesn't work. And you're already eliminating that stuff. You know what I mean? There is value in learning what doesn't work. That information is great to pass along because now people aren't trying the same thing over and over and over. You're saying, hey, these ideas don't work, but these ones kind of did. Maybe you can build on them and make them better. And that's how things evolve and get learned. I mean, I know that sounds like it shouldn't be nothing more than common sense, but it's something people don't really think about at its base and core.
100%.
All right, so some of the other things, once again, just reading the comments, we got Steve join us there, the Drifting Spore, Eric, Danny, Red Sand Adventures. So we have talked a little bit about like the youth groups, kids camps. We've talked about this leading up to this. Those kinds of places are always looking for volunteers, and I'm not talking... Well, yeah, actually, I am kind of talking things like the Tim Hortons camp here in Canada. They send kids away. They do a lot of boating activities, archery, outdoorsy things. You and I talked about some of the local camps like Camp Getty in my area, which is a Christian camp. Super friendly people, though. Like you said, they'll welcome anyone that wants to come down and help out. They're just They're there to make an interesting and informative time for the kids, and anybody that's willing to support that, man, they're all on board of it. They have a lake that's available to them with boating stuff, and I mean, that's one of the intros I got into boating, was I was down there helping them basically do lake maintenance. I just
Yeah.
happened to live in the area, you know what I mean? And I knew the guys. I'm not specifically Christian in that sense. Uh, but I mean, it was just a community thing, you know what I mean? It had nothing to do with the religious aspect of it. It was just the whole camp vibe.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I won't knock those groups. I've gone to those groups. I mean, same with you. I'm not necessarily religious. I don't follow any particular group. That being said, I have to acknowledge good work, and a lot of these groups are doing good work, and I think that needs to be acknowledged. Um, and there's a, it's to the point. Not a lot of organizations can do that, and these are organizations that oftentimes have. They bought pieces of land, they put cabins on it. Some of them have been there since the 60s and 70s, if not before, and they've just been maintaining them. It's much harder to start that today, I think. So these are the ones that can do it, and a lot of them will rent out to other organizations or loan out depending on the need. Um, so uh, I know the scouts for a while had so much inventory that they had to look at getting rid of some of it. So they've shut down some camps. They've gotten rid of a lot of older cabins that have fallen apart. And that was a lack of people that could help maintain it and do it, right?
And that's what's
And
happening to a lot of these places. Nobody wants to help anymore. It's becoming a digital world, less out in the woods and camp oriented. It's unfortunate. I mean, yes, technologically, the world is much further ahead than when Ben and I were kids, but the values that you can learn from a camp like that still exist and are still great for developing youths to build good foundations for future good behavior without getting too preachy.
yeah.
Because it sounds like I'm starting to go down that path.
So another group that oftentimes are looking for help and assistance and stuff, a lot of the more educational areas like universities, colleges, and research facilities, things like this, if they're out doing animal counts, if they're like, there's groups that put nets up to catch birds and then they weigh the birds and do all this stuff. They're oftentimes, I mean, they'll use students, but sometimes there's not enough students, there's not an offer or whatever. They're looking for people who can help out with this stuff. Not always. It was mentioned to me the other day, some land management groups also, like groups that have larger amounts of land, they oftentimes need to verify things. They need to do things to prove that the land is being used in a responsible manner. They may need help with some of this stuff. So there is volunteer uh, opportunities in these places, and those can be interesting. I don't know how to get into all these, but reach out to groups and organizations and say, do you need help with this stuff? And, you can oftentimes, I think, work out something with them. Say, I'm interested in helping you, but I need this in return. Like I want, you know, a first aid course, or I would love to learn more about, setting up a camp or whatever. Figure out what you're learning, and maybe it can help, right? But a lot of the skills, like how do you tie a net up in the woods to catch birds and bats? You're going to learn knots. You're going to learn how to cut trees, how to process trees. You're going to learn to read the terrain a little bit better, right? And what are the rules and laws associated with a lot of this stuff?
And right up there with that too, think about like watershed and riverkeeper associations. So Ducks Unlimited. I'm
Yeah,
thinking like the I just had the name Waterway Association. I can't remember it, but literally they do things like electrofishing, where they'll electrofish so many fish. They pull them up. They got to tag them. They weigh them. They mark them. They put them back. This is all stuff that gets done, and you learn great skills like habitat stabilization, basic boating skills. Probably, as Ben said, they may offer you things like first aid and other things that you can take around for your day to day life. Still getting you out there, still getting you great skills, still a demand for these things to be done. Once again, technological world, completely understanding, but everything else is still there and it still has to be maintained.
yeah. So I mean, we've gone through two-thirds of our regular time, and so I think there's a little bit of a summary. We're not going to cover every organization that's available. We're not going to cover every possible opportunity. But I think our point is that if you're looking to get out, if you're looking to learn some new skills, if you're looking to meet people who are into this sort of thing, this is an opportunity to meet some pretty neat people, people that maybe wouldn't be in your normal circle. So, I mean, I say that, but it's a reality is just because your day job is one thing means that you might not have the opportunity to hang out with people who are into totally different careers and totally different, even like social economical circles. But these organizations sometimes allow these people to cross, and you'll find people with the same interests and skills that you have coming at it from a slightly different area. And so there's the opportunity to learn, make long-term, lifelong friendships potentially, or short-term ones. You know, uh, so there's because this is the other thing. When we talk to a lot of people here, they're like, "I love doing this stuff, but I don't like doing it by myself, and none of my friends are into it. Nobody I know who's into it, or like."
So, yeah, you gotta find people that are into it. Yeah, there's a little bit of legwork involved, but believe it or not, it's not that your old friends become worse friends. Don't misunderstand. It's just not their gig, and you gotta respect that. That's cool. Like, I got friends, their idea of camping is like a Howard Johnson. You know what I mean? That's as far as, or as close to camping as they will ever go. Still good people. But I had to go and find friends, Ben over here, that were into the things I liked. Because even Melissa, God love her soul, she may not be able to keep up to some of the things that I would potentially want to do. Not that she wouldn't be willing to try. It would just be unfair to her to try and push her through some of that stuff. So find yourself, somebody that's foolish enough to do it with you.
By the way, what's a Howard Johnson?
You know what? Do we even have them in Canada? I used
I
to
have
see them
no
all the
idea.
time in the States. I don't know.
I wasn't joking.
It's a hotel chain.
Oh, okay. It's funny. I've had conversations with people. I love this one. And they're like, "Oh, I can't stay anywhere unless it's at least a 3-star hotel." And I love, this is my favorite comeback, is, do you know how many people slept in that bed?
About one more after tonight.
Right? Like when I go sleeping in the woods, yes, I might be sleeping in the woods. I may be sleeping in a hammock or on an air mattress in the middle of the woods, but I know every single person who's ever been in that bed. And I know when it was washed last. It isn't as unclean or as unsanitary, as unsafe as some people put it is. In fact, I will take a good overnight camping trip in the woods over almost any hotel anytime. And that is me. That is not everyone. And as my wife's favorite comment is, everyone is not Ben. Stop expecting them to be.
But that's good in its own. And I know we make fun of that a lot of times, but it is still a good point to make. Not everybody wants to or can do what you want to do. Unless you go looking for them.
Yeah. You know,
All the sheets every day? Of course they don't, Danny. You'd be lucky they change the sheets in there once a week, man. They give that a fluff, air it out, and bam, next people are in there.
100%. Yeah. And I mean, honestly, you can't be waking up in the morning, looking across the lake in the canoe. You just paddle over there for like 4 hours to get to this location with the sun coming up, filtering through the trees, sitting there with your cup of coffee that you made on your own little stove that weighs, 7.6 ounces.
There's a satisfaction to slowing things down and doing it yourself. Yeah, it's great to be able to punch the K-cup into the machine, flip the lid down, hit the button, and bam, cup of coffee. But there's something extra special when you have to boil. Let's take it a step further. You got to boil the water before you can make the coffee to disinfect the water. Then you throw your coffee grinds in and let it resimmer for a while. Push your French press down if you're into that, or just drink it cowboy style if you're like me. And that cup of coffee, although it took you 5-6 times as long, tastes 10 to 20 times better.
Oh, man. There's a few people I've gone with, and as soon as we find our campsite, they're looking, I need my sitting rock. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I need the rock that looks out across the water. That I can see the sunset or rise. Ideally, I can do both. We get a point that's like, like a northern or southern point. You can see the east and west at the same time. Oh, that's sweet. That's just sweet. With a nice big rock sitting on it. Oh yeah.
The best place, and now we're telling stories, but the best place I ever made a camp was on the top of this little knoll. And like you said, it was coming from the east or from the south, so it was nice and warm, and you could watch everything go from the east to the west. It was the best camping trip, scenery wise, I think I had ever had.
Yeah. If only you deep fried a turkey on that one, eh?
No, that's why I said scenery wise, best one I ever had. That was back when I was still packing like I was starving. You know what I mean? I know,
No,
hard to believe you ever seen me.
so that's just kind of our advice. Like if you're looking to get into this, or you're looking to improve your skills, or you're looking to meet new people, one of the methods is, you can go do a lot of the stuff on your own. You can solo a lot of it, but get involved with some of the local communities. You're going to feel better because you're helping people out. You're helping, your community and members of your community, but you're going to learn things, and you're going to meet new people and expand your horizons in more ways than I think you can expect, or you will expect. You should expect a lot, and you can gain some skill sets. And you never know what'll come out of it. Could be a little, could be a lot, could change your life. Um, but it's never going to change if you don't do anything new. And I think this is a really good option to look in. What opportunities are out there? There's always people looking for volunteers to help out with this sort of stuff. So find something that works for you and get into it. That is kind of my advice for that, and that was kind of our idea coming into this.
No, 100% agree. And I mean, that's as good a place as any to wrap this sucker up. So, unless you got any final words, Ben?
No, I'm good.
All right. Well, once again, thanks to everybody that joined us here in the comments. We had Eric, Danny, and Steve join us here tonight. Be sure to check out their channels. And for everybody else, we'll see you next week. We'll have another exciting topic, hopefully. You know what I mean? At least exciting enough to get a few more people back here. And we'll be chit-chatting and, we'll be here every week. All right, folks. Y'all have a good night. We'll see you then.
Night all.